welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. I am Scott Powell, President and Chief Executive Officer of Skyline Corporate Communications Group, LLC. On behalf of OTC Markets and Skyline Corporate Communications Group, we are very pleased you have joined us for the Small Cap Growth Conference. The first presentation of the day is from First Graphene Limited. Please note, you may submit questions for the presenter at any time. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Michael Bell, who is Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of First Graphene Limited, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol FGPHF and on the ASX under ticker symbol FGR. Welcome, Michael.
Right, as Scott mentioned, I'm Mike Bell. I'm the CEO and Managing Director of First Graphene. We are an ASX listed graphene producer based in Australia. We're listed on the ASX, on the OTCQB, and also out of Frankfurt. We are working through the journey of commercializing graphene. Now, we are a little different than most graphene producers or graphene players, is that we have managed to move our business out of academia, out of being a science experiment, and we have moved into the commercial world. So we have commercial scale, we can produce 100 tons of our product. We have active clients, we generate revenue, and we run a business that is really focused on assisting end clients develop products using our materials. So graphene is an additive that you put into materials to enhance, and we try and help our clients bring their products to market that are enhanced. So just a bit of background or highlights of First Graphene. We run a production facility out of Western Australia, out of Perth, and that production facility has been the culmination of somewhere between 5 and 8 years of development. It's producing a graphene product by a process called electrochemical exfoliation, and we can produce about 100 tons of powdered product per year. Now, in the world of graphene, 100 tons is a lot. If we had to ever scale, we could scale to 1,000 tons relatively easily and cheaply, but 100 tons is a considerable amount of graphene. Now, what we do is we essentially start from either vein graphite or a purified flake graphite that we would purchase as feedstock for somewhere between $1,000 to $2,000 US a ton. And we run it through our process, which is shown there on the right-hand side, and we turn it into graphene, graphene oxide, and functionalized graphene and graphene oxides that we would sell for up to $10 million a ton. Now, obviously, graphene is an early stage, not in its infancy, but early stage of adoption. So when you purchase something worth $9,000 a kilo, you're talking about a graphene and water, whereas on the higher end scale, you're talking about a highly specialized, scientifically engineered additive to an end product. As of today, we have our primary product line is called PureGraph, and we have approached the graphene market by offering a variety of specifications, or what you call morphology. So this is typically dictated by the size of platelets. So these are nanomaterial platelets that we produce from a very small size up to quite a large size, which is about 70 micron. So that's quite unique to our process, and we can also customize that product to our client requirements. We've also been working through a number of acquisitions, which I'll tell you more about shortly. And we also work through and sell into about 20 different countries and about 35 active clients, so 35 people that have seen the technology, they've added it into their products, they see a measurable difference and have now taken that to market. Now, what is graphene? Graphene is an isotope of carbon, so it's essentially a carbon matrix. It's very thin, it's flexible, transparent, it has great barrier properties, so hold things like helium or hydrogen particles. It's exceptionally strong, so stronger than steel. It's electrically and thermally conductive. It has natural fire retardancy properties and also a degree of abrasion resistance. Now, when you take graphene, which is a powder, and you put it into your materials, whether it be plastics or coatings or cement and concrete, you can enhance those attributes in your target material. Now, as I mentioned, we use a process called electrochemical exfoliation. So it's essentially taking graphite and dissolving it. And then we use standard finishing techniques from the food processing industry. And it means that we have volume, we have scale. At the early stage of graphene companies coming into the market, a lot of people, could produce 1 or 2 tons a year, and they went very, very deep on set applications. We started off and made our facility at scale to start with. So we don't have any worries about growing our ability to produce. And then we've focused on our commercial relationships. We've focused on producing more product, better product, a wider variety of products, and subsequently been through that approval process through the EU, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and now we're working through EPA approval for our products. Now, as I mentioned, we generate revenue today, which is quite different than most graphene companies. And what I've done is I've just put sort of a bit of a taste of where we sell our products today. So in the cement and concrete space, we have been through a development with a cement manufacturer in the UK called the Breeden Group. They are the UK's largest cement producer, and they make about 50% of the UK's cement. We've been through that process. We now manufacture in the thousands of tons of graphene enhanced cement, and that is used actively in infrastructure projects in the UK, specifically concrete road bases. It's in structural elements in railway stations. It goes into precast piping, and more recently in precast concrete roof tiles, and also into shotcrete concrete. So those applications are all in place today and actively buying. In the elastomer space, we sell quite heavily into the mining industry. Obviously, being based in Australia, this is more of a local demand, where we use it for sacrificial wear liners in bucket wheel reclaimers, on chutes, on conveyor belts, and it's a really good fit in the mining space because of that fire retardancy and abrasion resistance. So where you put it into elastomers to protect your piping or your chutes, etc., it also protects it against the fire risk. And we also sell quite heavily into the footwear industry. We've sometimes got to give the footwear industry a bit more credit. It's very large, as I'll speak to in a minute, but people using TPUs or natural rubbers, they can put graphene in to enhance the abrasion resistance. We have quite a broad profile in the energy generation and storage space, both offering materials for supercapacitors and batteries, but also we've done quite a bit of development with perovskite solar cells out of a partner in Sydney. And we've managed to put graphene layer, a multifunctional workload function, into a perovskite cell. We subsequently can reduce the cost of the BOM cost of the cells by about 80% and get it to an efficiency of over 30%, which is pretty good for perovskite. So that's a really sort of growth area for us at the moment. We sell into composites. So this is pressure tanks, pipes, swimming pools, where people are looking for strength, lightweighting, or barrier protection. It goes into sporting equipment, architectural structures, and we've just had a recent client come across the line in carbon fiber, which is a high abrasion resistance oil and gas mining drill collars application. In coatings and textiles, we sell into powder coaters. We have conductive geotextiles that go into smart sensing applications, and also conductive printable inks is quite a big defence program and partner with us there. And lastly, in the polymer space, it goes into transportation panels, so vehicle panels, solar thermal roof tiles, and also fire retardant building materials. Our commercialization model, as I mentioned before, we have 35 active clients, and we are growing that every month. So in the last 2 months, we've added 5 new clients, those being carbon fiber application and 4 textile applications. This is people using it in textiles for thermal control. So those have just come on in the last sort of 2 or 3 months, and now we look at what the next wave of clients are. Now, as I'll talk about later, in our pipeline, we have 35 clients that are across the line, 35 unique applications, all growing. And we have another 50 in the pipe that are in late stage production trials, marketing releases, and validation sort of processes. So that is our immediate growth that sits here in that 50. In behind that, we have a huge pipeline, which again, I'll talk to later, but it's just that constant moving of those sort of newer product launches coming through. We've also made recent acquisitions to drive some more inorganic growth. We've had an acquisition out of the US recently that's really targeting sort of the defense and aerospace segment in the US. And lastly, in terms of our commercialization model, we are trying to work on all of the wins that we've had across those 35 applications and growing clients in those apps. Specifically, the cement and concrete space, we've had great success in the UK, and we are currently negotiating for the commercial adoption of that. We then see the same process and the same interest being shown out of Denmark, the Netherlands, Germany, Australia, and Thailand. So those are markets that we're just on top of and reproducing those results. So when we talk about those sort of 50 clients and the applications that we have already validated and have in place, what sort of market sizes are they? And this is just to give sort of a snapshot of what way we address certain markets. So in the UK, in the cement and concrete space, that is a huge market. They use about 16 million tonnes of cement annually. Now, if we take that with our dosing and what sort of revenue that could generate us, we're talking around that sort of $350 to $360 million market size, addressable market revenue for us. Now, we then talk about a percentage adoption in that space. That's the number we start looking at. So our client in the UK at the moment has control of 50% of the cement production. So that's why we sort of explore that. If we look across some other interesting segments, specifically in elastomers, mining wear protection, just in sort of polyurethanes and elastomers in the mining space in Australia, that's sort of a $150 million opportunity for us. That's one application, one geographical region. On the work boot front, so footwear, we have 2 clients currently buying our materials to put into boots. It's a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for us. So it's very, very vast. So we keep giving that attention. And it's the same to be said about coatings and textiles, polymers, depending on geographical regions and end products. Now, just this morning, we have announced an acquisition of a company called Mito Material Solutions. They're based out of Indiana, and they've been spending the last sort of 8 years developing a series of products that are focused on functionalizing graphene and graphene oxides. So this is essentially artificially placing other particles onto graphene and graphene oxide platelets, which allows you to further tailor your performance enhancement or the application you're trying to target. So this acquisition here buys a fairly large product portfolio that becomes very complementary to the PureGraph range, which is our base product. It comes with a revenue stream, so this is the introduction of inorganic revenue into our business. So it's the first time we've explored that, but it also comes with a very established pipeline. So the current revenue base is across clients mainly in the sporting goods space, but the pipeline comes with a much larger segment into defence, aerospace, and transport. So mainly in the US. So that's why we've sort of persisted and got this acquisition across the line. And it also gives us a presence. As I mentioned before, we produce our products at the moment in Western Australia. The acquisition gets a toll manufacturing base for the products that service the US market, so that's quite important to us. There has been a great deal of interest in graphene more recently through the likes of DARPA, the US defence opportunities, trying to find ways to enhance composite structures, trying to get them stronger, lighter, EMI shielded, etc., which is something that graphene does very, very well. Next, we also completed an acquisition just in the last couple of weeks of a company called Ionic Industries, which is a graphene-enhanced geotextile coating. So this is fabrics that go under waterways to contain water, to provide barriers for landfill and construction materials. And so this is very much a developed product that we have adopted into our portfolio, once again expanding our overall product offering. So when I talk about product offering, in the green section on the left-hand side is First Graphene's traditional pure graphene range, and we had started to build that into graphene oxide, which is a slight variation of graphene. And we've built that to a point where we see lots of applications requiring different types of graphene, and the next logical step is to expand that further, including the functionalization. Now, we could have gone and developed that functionalization capability ourselves. It would have taken us probably 4 or 5 years. So when the opportunity to acquire somebody like Mito comes up, it's something we have to jump at to really broaden that portfolio, and it just doubles down and spreads the opportunities that you can service. Now, just jumping back to concrete, I'll give you sort of 2 more detailed explanations here of how graphene helps these materials. So concrete, as most people will know, is one of the leading emitters of CO2 emissions, about somewhere between 6 and 7% globally. And what we have been able to do is put graphene into cement and concrete at very, very low loadings. We're talking 0.05 to 0.07% by weight to cement. And what that nets out is it gives the concrete, the resultant concrete, a significant strength increase. And we're talking 25 to 30% reliably. The data here suggests it's higher than that, but we find it reliably 25 to 30%. So you can do two things with that. You can make your concrete much stronger, much more durable, or you can basically use it to reduce the active clinker or the CO2 emitting part of concrete and get a lower CO2 concrete, the same strength. So we've partnered with a company in the UK, Breedon. We've made over 20,000 tonnes of the stuff. It is now used through infrastructure projects, and we're going through that process of trying to negotiate into end-use clients, such precast manufacturers, etc. It also comes with the ability to reduce the permeability, so it is less, it absorbs less moisture over time, which means you've got a more durable product. So the cement and concrete space is, in terms of volume, probably our largest opportunity. It's so vast, but it is also a very slow-moving opportunity. But you can see it's starting to get traction, especially with the CO2 pressure people are under these days. In composites, we typically put graphene into resin systems. So again, very, very small amounts of graphene into your resin system will net you a strength increase. 30% is fairly easy. So you're finding people that will put it to make their composite stronger, which often means they use less of their glass fiber or carbon fiber. So instead of 6 layers, they might use 4 layers. So there's a lightweighting factor. You get a strength enhancement, and you also get that barrier property if you're trying to stop moisture going through it or you're trying to hold gas in place. We've been working in a project in the UK over the last few months developing a Type 5 hydrogen tank, which basically puts the graphene as an inner layer on the inside of that tank, and it's specifically for strength and then to stop things like hydrogen particles passing through it. It's got great barrier properties. Typically with glass fiber or even carbon fiber, the strength increase that you can observe depending on your resin system can be 45% modulus or even 140% tensile strength. So it makes a very significant difference in glass fibers, and it's starting to get the same sort of performance in carbon fibers, which opens up lots of doorways in the aerospace area. We have an established distribution network that's sort of spread across 11 or so countries. We rely on our distributors to vet clients. Now, as you can imagine, graphene works on such a broad range of materials and applications. It takes so long to vet clients to see who's legitimately inquiring, who's got a problem that we can solve. And so we rely on our distributors to do that screening. More established distributors come with a client list that they know well. And so we prefer to work with those companies that know their client base, know what they do, and we can help them more specifically on that. Just in terms of our pipeline, and this has now been amended to include sort of the pipeline of opportunities that our Mito acquisition brings. We have those 35 clients and proven applications that we're just maximising now and finding more people doing the same stuff. We have about 50 clients that are in between marketing launches, final production trials. But then we have a pipeline that has up to 3 years of investment into it. So, we're going to release a product later this year, or our client is going to release a product later this year in the powder coating segment. And this is a product that, outperforms galvanization and zinc coatings by 3 or 4-fold. They have been going through that process for 3 years. So we have that depth of client base or stickiness in the development coming through still. We have 50 pending that we sort of move through in the next 12 to 18 months. Overall performance, we are steadily increasing our overall revenue. We have been doing that for over 5 years now. When I joined, we had no revenue, we had no commercial people, and we've slowly built that. We understand in this space that we're talking about scientifically engineered products. These things take a bit of time to get through that validation process. But once you have that client, they're very sticky. And when that next client comes asking to do the same thing, that goes from a 3-year development to a year to 6 months and shorter. So that's definitely speeding up. By adding in 4 or 5 clients over the last 3 months, that is quite a fast pace. I see that steadily increasing over the next 6 to 12 months as we get more people across the line. So just a quick summary, overall investment opportunity for a business that's commercialising graphene. Graphene is the potential of graphene is immense because it touches on so many materials. We have approached this with scale. We're not trying to scale. We have scale. We have revenue generating clients, and we have a fairly heavy pipeline of opportunities that is just going to drive our growth over the next 12 to 24 months. We have world firsts in terms of our cement, use of cement, concrete roof tiles, and we've got growing both organic and organic revenues as we try and get in and penetrate the US market more actively. We are producing a high value nano material. So these are, they're sold between $9,000 a kilo and 9,000 a tonne up to about 10 million a tonne. So it's quite a broad variety of materials, but all very scientifically engineered into people's applications. And we're now making our acquisitions more strategic in terms of accelerating that overall revenue generation and our path to break even. Right, I'll just jump across to some questions now, just in the last sort of 5 minutes. So first one, we've flagged sort of a $10 to $20 million pipeline over the next 18 to 24 months. How much of that is realistically convertible in the next 12 months? That's a good question. We build that pipeline with our clients so they understand what we expect and what we plan to, but we're ultimately at their mercy to pull that trigger and adopt the product. We have some clients that have been at it for over 3 years trying to validate it, tweak it, engineer it slightly further. And as we go through every client that we sign on, every application that is new to us, I gain more confidence in that being able to convert. So if you'd asked me the same question 12 months ago, I would have been less convinced. Now I'm getting to that point where the pipeline is strong and the conversations that we have with people, including negotiations, are getting stronger by the day. We are in advanced stage negotiations with cement and concrete producers in the UK. That will ultimately convert. It's just a question of how quickly we can get it across the line because we are reliant on them adopting it. Next question. How quickly can you push Ionic's geotextile coating through our mining channels? So this is the Ionic business that we've bought. We've bought a business that designed or formulated the coating, coated the textiles, and then sold to an end client. Our intent is to make the coating and sell to the geotextile manufacturers who we have a relationship with. So our sort of 90-day plan around that acquisition is to re-establish the equipment that makes the coatings in our plant in Henderson and re-engage with the geotextile manufacturers. We have 3 or 4 clients already that are saying, we want the product, we just need to figure out the logistical way to get the coating onto a textile and to them. So I'm pretty confident about generating revenue for that fairly quickly. Right, so FGR just proved up to 14% CO2 reduction and 8% less cement in a 5-month FP Macan trial. What's the next commercial milestone for that program? It's another good question. That is the way we put that into the FP Macan trials had no changes to the process. So essentially that could be adopted straight away. There's obviously that sort of costing discussion. We're trying to manage the idea of making small amounts. I say small amounts, but we're still talking hundreds of thousands of tons through a very, very big plant that's designed to make 6 or 7 million tons of cement a year. So the next commercial milestone is the agreement on a price and a dosing, or a mechanism to dose that would then move forward from there. So it's a really, really encouraging set of results that, and the commercials stand up to it as well. So that should move forward pretty quickly. Next one was our focus spans cement, composites, case, and energy storage. Internally, which of these do you see the dark horse segment that could surprise? Look, I have a pet sort of preference for the composites and polymer segment because they offer high value add. If you take the likes of carbon fiber is a really interesting product. It's sort of unmatched. It's high value, and it's sort of fits in with that sort of nano material type enhancement quite well. And because of that, it's a high margin type of business. I think those sorts of areas are pretty exciting. In the polymers and elastomers, this is just there's no product that does the same as what graphene does when you talk about fire retardancy, abrasion resistance, and strength. So those are probably my where I think our bulk of our revenue would come quicker. In the defence space, also composites, that's the main area that they look in. The Myo acquisition gives you an immediate USA manufacturing customer footprint. How fast can you start booking US source revenues from those assets? Imminently. That is, it's the existing client base is mainly in the sporting space, but they're all regularly ordering material. So we expect to see that filter through fairly quickly. And last question. You've successfully completed several trials in the concrete sector. When do you expect commercially driven contracts bringing orders to FGR in the range of double-digit tonnes? Double-digit tonnes in the cement and concrete space is not actually that difficult. It doesn't actually equate to a lot. And the reason why is that it is a graphene water dispersion. Okay, so when you say I'm selling a ton of it into that, it is a cement-specific product that's water and graphene. Where it gets interesting for us is in the hundreds of tonnes, and that's where we're chasing. That's what we're hoping to sort of get across the line in the next 12 months or so. Hopefully faster, we'll see. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you very much for your time. It's appreciated.